Well, let me tell you, it's been 60 years that I've been in this country. And it's hard for me to think back when I first came over. And when he mentioned ice cream, something came to my head, and I thought, if that speaker doesn't come, I can talk about that. I came in 1961. I was 18 years old, didn't know anything. I mean, I thought they were upside down in this country because they're on the other side of the world. And when I got on the ship, the last day on the ship, everybody was going out and looking, and I didn't know what they were looking at. I had no idea. I was born dumb. I never learned much. Anyway, many years later, I realized they were looking at the Statue of Liberty. But I looked at outside, for 10 days we were on the ship and saw the first time we saw green. And I looked and I thought, it's not that much different than in Germany. The trees are right side up, the houses are right side up. It's not totally different. And, I wasn't disappointed, but I thought it would be totally different. But anyway, I got off the ship and all this kind of stuff. Lots of things happened. And then I was picked up by a couple that immigrated many years before. They picked me up off the ship. I stayed there overnight, and they put me on the train to Minneapolis, Minnesota, where my sponsors picked me up. I can give a long speech about that, being in Minneapolis, and they weren't at the airport, at the train station. I knew Mr. Forker, he'd been in Germany, but I didn't know her, and nobody was familiar. Anyway, that's another speech. So I got to, then they picked me up and took me to Northfield, and then they took me to Fort Dodge, Iowa. That's where they live. And I remember Mr. Forker said, and now we're entering Iowa. And I looked for my passport because we had to go through some kind of change, it's a different state. And he kept on driving. And I saw on the side there was offices and stuff. Why does he keep on driving? That's later on, many years later, I found out that was for the trucks. The trucks have to go through testing and show their license and everything. And he kept on driving, which amazed me. I didn't know any English, so I didn't know anything. And then we got to Fort Dodge, and then they took me to the Iowa State Fair. It was in August, the State Fair in Iowa, which was totally, I didn't know anything. A fair, they don't have fairs or anything like that in Germany. That is totally American, totally. And so another speech I give you about that. I have a lot of speeches in my mind that I can talk about. Anyway, and then he belonged to Kiwanis Club, not the Lions Club, Kiwanis Club. And they had sold pancakes there at the state fair. And Clarabelle, his wife, loaded up the plate with pancakes and put a bunch of syrup on it. In Germany, we don't eat anything that's sweet. It's not nearly as sweet, a lot less sugar in Germany. And so it was so sweet, I just swallowed it down. And then she thought I was very hungry, so she filled up another plate. I didn't know if I get out of there without throwing up. Well, I don't have a reverse gear, so I can't throw up anyway. So then we get back to the house, and Paul Forker was an executive at a dairy. He always brought ice cream samples home. And the most thing I had one time in Germany, some lousy sherbet or something, we didn't have anything like that after the war, ice cream and stuff. Later on, now they have everything, but they didn't then. And I loved that ice cream. I couldn't eat enough. But here, Claire would say, Hannah, don't eat so much ice cream. American boys don't like fat girls. I thought the heck was American boys, you know. But I was too embarrassed to keep eating it. So I had my first paycheck, and I always walked home from the hospital that I worked in, cleaning rooms, which is another story. And so I had my first paycheck. I made 90 cents an hour cleaning rooms. It's a lot of money for me. And I gave my sponsors the check, and I got it. And because for room and board, I didn't know what and they gave me money back. And so I had money in my pocket. I walked past the supermarket. I was going to buy some ice cream. So I went in the supermarket, and the smallest container was a half a gallon. I had to eat that up because I didn't want them to know that I bought ice cream. And then I traded off. Then I discovered Danish rolls. That was a little easier because they wouldn't melt. So I traded off one day, and then I buy ice cream, and still I didn't have any more money. I ate a lot of, I couldn't get enough of that. Needless to say, I got a little bit fleshy. But now I don't care for ice cream anymore, except coffee ice cream. I love that, but that brings up my blood pressure. So I have to give that up too. But I ate a lot of ice cream in those days, Mr. Toastmaster.